Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up, My Legion Adventure, episode 69. Well, it's been a month, folks. It's been almost exactly a month, just 2 days shy of a month since I've done a My Legion Adventure episode, and I apologize. Work's been kind of crazy, so I've leaned into... I've had to do less episodes because I just have less time. Work gets busy. This is my busy time of year. So there might be gaps coming up. I just let you know. I have a team of 10. I have to do their evals. It's a lot of writing. The changes at work. Craziness. And I don't want to take a big break because I don't want to stop reading Starman, and I don't want to stop talking to other people about comics. So I've got a couple episodes in the can. One with Kirby about Avengers is coming up this weekend, and Daring Defenders will be a week from Saturday with the amazing Billy. And I'm going to record with Billy tomorrow night for part of A World on Fire, All-Star Squadron podcast. So I'm excited. But I paused Legion for a couple reasons. One, it's in the middle of the week when I normally record it. And since work is busy, it's just I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't. In the middle of the week, I'm worried about what I didn't get done on Monday and Tuesday and what I'm not going to get done on Thursday or Friday. I'm recording this on the day it's going to post on a Thursday. And kind of late in the evening because it's hot as hell here in Richmond, Virginia. And my wife, we want to spend some time together. Now she's downstairs at the neighbors feeding the cats and has an appointment online, and she's going to do it down there so I can record in the living room. So, it's been a month. And the reason I kind of didn't push through and do Legion is because the last arc was okay. I haven't been as engaged since Swan left. And I don't think it's just the art. And the art is, I have not an issue with the art, but I'm just not as enthralled by Win Mortimer's work. And it's not as dynamic as I mean, that Swan Klein stuff, man, to me, that is so powerful and such great art that I just got disengaged. And I'm realizing that this is a section of Legion history. If I've read it, I read it once. And I think this is the reason, because in a while I'll get through Wynn's short run on the book, and then George Tuska does some. And I'm a big George Tuska fan. I don't think his Legion is his greatest work, but I'm a big George Tuska fan. So I've got to just be honest. And, I try to be a very positive podcast, and I don't like to beat up on stuff. But I want to continue my Legion read. So we're going to do Adventure Comics 375 and 376 this week. I'm going to try to stay on track, and maybe if I get time Sunday, I'll pre-record next week's just so I can do it. But for now, we're just going to cover these 375 and 376. It is a two-part epic over the two issues. Let me give you 375's print and addenda. I'm just going to use the DC Wikipedia. I cannot find my index, but the synopsis in here is taken right from the index, so I'm not that worried. But, okay, so this is Adventure Comics 375. It was cover dated December 1968. Executive editor is Mort Weisinger, as always. Cover artist, Neil Adams. This is a famous cover of Neil Adams where you've got Bouncing Boy standing on a plinth, and he's saying, "I defeated you, Legionnaires. You know the penalty. Rip off your emblems. Yes, Bouncing Boy," says Superboy. "You've proved you're the mightiest of us all," and it shows Superboy, Ultra Boy, Sun Boy, and Supergirl. Oh, Saturn Girl, sorry, tearing off their emblems. Writer Jim Shooter, pencilers Jim Shooter, layouts only. Win Mortimer, inker Win Mortimer, letterer Joe Letteris, editor Mort Weisinger. The title of the story is The King of the Legion, and here is the synopsis. On a barren asteroid 108, two heroic teams, the Legion of Superheroes and the Wanderers, meet in peace and vow eternal friendship. The Wanderers, who operate in a remote section of the universe, include Celebrand, leader of the group, Psyche, mistress of emotion, Elvo, the swordsman, Immorto, who has a force that within him that allows him to live again after being killed, Quantum Queen, who can become any type of quantum radiation, Omytho, who can take the form of any bird, Dartlock, who wields the array of special darts, All right, I only remember the Wanderers from a maxi series in the '80s, so bear with me. So I had to become reacquainted with them in this. Departing, the wandering heroes prepare to return home, but accidentally fly the ship through a glowing space cloud whose radiation temporarily turns them evil. Later at Legion headquarters, a gigantic gauntlet abruptly materializes and engraves a message on a supposedly indestructible armor plate, challenging the mightiest Legionnaire to combat. As the Legionnaires debate as to which of them should respond to this summons, word comes from the new Science Police commander, Chief Ionis, about the Wanderers. He informs them that the former Crusaders have stolen the 7 stones of Alactos. I'm reading that wrong, probably. The Legionnaires decide to make hunting the Wanderers a contest to find the mightiest Legionnaire. In competition are Brainiac 5, Timberwolf, Chemical King, Karate Kid, Chameleon Boy, Sunboy, Superboy, Mon-El, Element Lad, Woohoo, Saturn Girl, Ultra Boy, and Bouncing Boy. Splitting into teams to capture each of the Wanderers, Mon-El, Element Lad, and Bouncing Boy battle Dart Lag. Chameleon Boy, Chemical King, and Saturn Girl meet Orintho. Karate Kid, Ultra Boy, and Sunboy fight Quantum Queen. Timberwolf, Brainiac 5, and Superboy encounter Immorto. Bouncing Boy, Chameleon Boy, and Karate Kid and Superboy emerge victorious in their preliminaries. They then again divide into teams to fight the next 2 Wanderers. Superboy bests Karate Kid against the Elvo. Bouncing Boy apparently defeats Chameleon Boy against Psyche. In the final contest, Superboy and Bouncing Boy face Celebrand, who possesses the Solon 7 stones, which enable him to see into time and through dimensions and reveal the approaching heroes. He purposely surrenders to Bouncing Boy, who is thus declared the winner of the contest. During a ceremony in which his comrades acknowledge Bouncing Boy victor, a ray transports him away. Just then, the real Bouncing Boy arrives, leaving the Legionnaires wondering who the imposter was. So, this is the first appearance. It's a good line. Here's the lineup of Legionnaires: Bouncing Boy, Brainiac 5, Chameleon Boy, Chemical King, Colossal Boy, Cosmic Boy, Dual Damsel, Element Lad, Invisible Kid, Karate Kid, Light Lass, Lightning Lad, Matter Eater Lad, Mon-El, Phantom Girl, Princess Projector, Saturn Girl, Shadow Lass, Shrinking Violet, Star Boy, Sun Boy, Superboy, Supergirl, Timberwolf, and Ultra Boy. Pro D2 makes an appearance. The Wanderers, this is their first appearance. This is also Chief Leonis. So let's kind of go through this issue really quick. These are very kind of light, fun. These are kind of like, going back to the simplicity of the stories before we did Surprise Mysterious, Fatal 5, Stalag. There's just a lower, I don't want to say lower quality, but they're a simpler story, and they're the basic formula. It's very repetitive, and that may be part of it. It's got the inner splash page, which shows this big glove writing, "I challenge the mightiest leader to combat," and it's Superboy, Mon-El, Ultra Boy, and Element Lad, and it's it's got a little the tag and the splash pages look like a real hassle is brewing. Not only Superboy, Mon-El, Ultra Boy, and Element Lad, but the 8 other heroes claim the Legion Championship, and the fighting is fast and furious to find out who turns out to be the king of the Legion. So, it starts with, just the Legionnaire and the Wanderers meeting, and all of them being introduced, and they're on Asteroid 108, and they part in company, and then the Wanderers turn evil because they go through this space cloud, and then while they're still in space, the Legionnaires see the gauntlet write the message, "I challenge the mightiest Legionnaire to come to combat in a tourney of worlds on the last planet." And then they go about their business. Chief Ionis looks like the cop from The Village People. Kind of. It's, But you see all the Legionnaires, I really, they look fine. It's nice to see Chemical King, because Chemical King's not really in a lot of stories before his final end in the Grell era. But it's nice to see him. It's nice to see Shadow Lass. So they're using the new heroes, Timberwolf and Shadow, the 3 newest members, Shadow Lass, Timberwolf, Chemical King, which is nice to see. It's a lot of heroes in this challenge. They've got a nice little bracket, like it was the NCAA basketball tournament. And they go off and fight. The girl. There's a scene in part 2 which is called Hero Against Hero. where you have Shadow Lass and Light Lass lamenting that their boyfriends are out fighting. It's a little, it's just a little. It's dated now. But the battles are fine. They're simple 3-page battles. The heroes. It makes sense who wins each one. But it's not a very memorable. I mean, it's so basically this is the formula. It's a series of fights. I don't feel a lot. There's not a lot of. There's just not a lot going on. I just don't feel it's not. I don't think it's Shooter's best stuff. I think but it's fine. I mean, I was talking to my buddy Ken today. He came over after work and we hung out and chatted and had a beer. And part of it, what it is I think, and he asked me why, is it bad Shooter? And he likes 80 Shooter. I like 80 Shooter. I like Shooter. I like his stuff he does later when he comes back. But, except in the 3-boot. That we'll talk about that years from now. But I just think I think they asked him to kind of go back to the core audience of this era, which is kids. So it's just a little simple. But let's move on to 376, and then I'll talk about the 2 stories altogether, because I've kind of jumped ahead, but I don't want to. So we're going to go to Adventure Comics 376, which has another great Neil Adams cover. It shows Superboy, Brainiac 5, and Supergirl watching a projection through this crystal of Chameleon Boy about to have his head chopped off. This comic was cover dated January 1969. Executive editor Mort Weisinger. The cover artist it's a threesome of Kurt Swan, Carmine Infantino, and Neil Adams. It's a pretty good cover. It's a really pretty good cover. I like it. And it's hard to tell who does what. It's just a good mix. And they work together. Credits. The title is The Execution of Chameleon Boy. Writer, Jim Shooter. Penciler's Jim Shooter. Layouts only. Win Mortimer. Gaspar Saladino does the letters. This time editor Mort Weisinger is also doing some of the plotting. Roll call is Bouncing Boy, Brainiac 5, Chameleon Boy, Cosmic Boy, Dual Damsel, Element Lad, Saturn Girl, Shadow Lass, Star Boy, Sun Boy, Superboy, Supergirl, Ultra Boy. Prody 2, also some new characters, King Etros, Radagar, Princess Elwinda, a bad guy called Baron Cordor. The other characters that appear are Celebrand and Psyche of the Wanderers and other knights on this planet. And here is the synopsis. The Erzitz, Bouncing Boy, God, that tongue twister, finds himself in an extra-dimensional world not unlike King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, whose people use modern technological implements which nonetheless resemble ancient devices. He learns that Kodor, the Black Vassal, a powerful baron, seeks the hand of the kingdom's Princess Elwinda, daughter of King Artros, and then the kingdom itself. Since none of Artros' men dare face him, a challenge was issued to the Legion of Superheroes' mightiest member. If the Legionnaire defeats Kodar, he will win the princess's hand. When instruments indicate that Bouncing Boy is not what he seems, he is revealed to be Chameleon Boy, who has disguised himself as Bouncing Boy, while his pest Prody became a duplicate of his master. Since the real Bouncing Boy has been knocked unconscious during the battle, Chameleon Boy has decided to borrow Bouncing Boy's identity, hoping it would help him win the contest. Touring the kingdom in the form of a bird, Chameleon Boy sees Princess Elwinda in a walled garden and flies to her. Although initially afraid of his powers and alien appearance, she soon accepts him for what he is, and the two grow close. When the Legionnaire is summoned before Artros and his council, however, he is informed that he will not be allowed to fight Condor because he might win, and an alien cannot be permitted to claim Elwinda. When he rebels, they imprison him, and Elwinda fruitlessly pleads his case. Some days later, Kodar and his forces attack Artros, and his men fall before him, but Chameleon Boy's cell is blasted open during the course of the battle. Chameleon Boy then defeats Kodar and is honored by grateful Artros. He asks to marry Elwinda, and the ceremony is performed on the battlefield, in which the couple take vows and raise axes. Meanwhile, the Legionnaires realize that Chameleon Boy is missing, and using the 7 stones of Lactose to search the dimensions for him. When they suddenly find him, they suppose that he is about to be executed and use a teleport ray to bring him back to Earth, permanently sealing the dimensional passage between the two worlds in the process. Aw, this is sad. So the art is even more basic in this issue. The splash page I'm not too keen on. It just doesn't rock my world. It just gives you a short synopsis of what's gonna happen from Superboy, Dual Damsel, and Brainiac 5. And it starts with Bouncing Boy, about showing, hey, I'm here. And we recap the what happened in the last episode, the Wanderers going through the thing, the challenge, the battle, and just a lot of exposition, a lot of flashback, catching the readers up, but that makes sense. These days, people, you didn't know if you were going to get both issues, so, they would have a synopsis. I don't mind, it's good to see Shadow Lass in the lineup, but then we cut to the trippy pass-through into the other dimension. It looks like King Arthur's cake. Some of the designs are good, it's just some of the coloring is very primitive, because it is back in the 4-color element. Sometimes they would have people in a lot of solids. But I like some of the design work. I like seeing Bouncing Boy, Chameleon Boy acting like Bouncing Boy. I think Kodor's got a nice look. I think if I like the art more, I might like it more. It does have a bit of a romantic romance comic feel to it. But I did the synopsis, and it all comes off pretty good. We see how Chameleon Boy ended up becoming Bouncing Boy. And we get to see them, they have a little... What I do like is when he lands in the garden with Elwinda, he turns into a dragon and the devil, and it scares him, and then they just have a nice chat, and they fall in love. Because in comics, you fall in love very quickly. So he wants to fight for her hand. He wants to be married to her. And then you had the big battle on some sky cycles and shields, and Chameleon Boy turns into a version of Condor and beats him up with his own mallet. It is weird that their wedding vow is he puts his head down on a block below two guys with axes, and we can see why his friends saved him. But he's pretty mad. Brainiac 5 goes, "We rescued you, Cam, and I've sealed the passage between our worlds and theirs in a force world. They'll never trouble us again." And then Chameleon Boy screams, "What, you stupid meddling idiots? You've ruined everything. Hey, Cam, what gives? Why are you so riled?" Superboy says, "Never mind. I guess it's midnight and my coach turned into a pumpkin." So it is a kind of a Cinderella story. It's really basic. I think these were written for kids. It's not hitting my 59-year-old heart. And since I only read these once. Last time I did a major reread 30-some years ago, maybe. 30 years ago. And I think I kind of just autopilot through these. And they didn't sit in. I think I talked last time about Win Mortimer and his art. I did some homework on him, and he did some great covers. This doesn't sing to me. It just doesn't sing to me. It is what it is. It does what they wanted it to do. It was entertainment for kids 6 to 13 in the 1960s. It was neat to see the introduction of the Wanderers, though. I did like that miniseries in the 80s. It was interesting, but they were always in the background, and I really liked the wedding of Bouncing Boy. Oh, here they are. I knew who they were. I saw it in Who's Who. So I knew something about it, but not a lot. But they weren't something that... There's no nostalgia for these issues for me. Where I've read the Forte, the early stuff a lot, because it was been reprinted a lot. I mean, I had the little digest. Me and a roommate would go through them over and over again. The Shooter stuff is some of the first stuff I saw in 100-Page Giants post my introduction, because my first Legion comic was during the Bates Cockrum era, and that goes from Cockrum to Grell. And I do like some of the later stuff and some of the action stuff when George Tuska does some of the art. But this is going to be a rough slog. This is going to be rough for me because these are not issues that have they're not touchstone issues. They're not. There's no nostalgia for them, so they don't always hit 100% because they weren't written for a 59-year-old man, 58-year-old man. So these episodes may be shorter, as I will not keep saying that every time I review them. I'll just kind of review the issues honestly, and the reviews just might be a little shorter. And maybe I'll add some issues. But we'll be back hopefully next week with the next 2 issues of Adventure Comics. Again, this Saturday, me and Kirby will discuss the Avengers storyline Under Siege, which was neat to talk to him about it his first time through. And next Saturday will be Those Daring Defenders, and me and Billy D will discuss 2 Marvel 2-in-1s and 2 Defenders. Nice Valkyrie story that goes from 2 issues of Marvel 2-in-1 to issue 21, I think. I don't have it in front of me. I talked about it last week. And the next issue of Defenders, where we have the introduction of the Headmen, and then we don't see them again for a long time. But I'll be doing those Defenders once in a while with Billy, and we'll be doing whole arcs, story arcs. So, and I've got other plans for Kirby, and I've got other people I want to have on. But check out Opal City Confidential. Next week's is more Paul Levitt's Steve Ditko, Starman, Prince Gavin, which I'm enjoying, and I'm getting near the end of that. And we'll see what's going on. Also, please check out my Doctor Who podcast, Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I have a variety of guests now as I go through the Doctor Who stories, one story at a time in broadcast order, but jumping from one Doctor to another. So please check it out. I'd appreciate it. And as always, folks, be safe, be smart, be kind to one another, and read some comics. Go read some Legion. It was nice to read some Legion because I kind of put it off, and it was nice to just read some Legion. So I'm going to read the next 2 issues now. So next week, or if I do it this weekend, they're fresh in my head. Bye. Be good.